What do you do when you find yourself drawing and drawing, but feel like what you create seems repetitive or boring? My name is Katie, and today we are going to have a short video about the importance of giving yourself time to experiment and doodle. Now, I'm a very project-focused artist and don't give myself much time to doodle as often as I used to. When I draw, I usually jump right into comic or large illustration work, which sometimes leads me to feeling like my work isn't improving as quick as I want it to. So I thought the best way to help with this is to find a way to get back into sketching. During February, there is a monthly art prompt called February, which is centered around drawing fairies for February. Now, I love fairies and want to draw more of them, so I thought this would be a good way for me to sketch and experiment more. I found an art prompt by Hannah Alexander Artwork over on Instagram and knew that this would work perfectly. Mainly because it focuses on drawing characters based off of bugs, which I really like to do anyway. Just take one look at my comic Crystallize, and you'll notice all my non-human characters are based off of bugs. I decided to take 30 to 40 minutes a day to create a new character based off the day's prompt. Now, I didn't want to do it every day because I had other responsibilities to take care of in the month, so when I had a bit of time in the morning, I would sketch something new. I ended up with 6 character sketches in total, which I wish I found more time to make more of, but something is better than nothing. Since the focus of this for me was to work more on experimenting and sketching, I decided that I wouldn't overthink the design and draw the first thing that came to mind. My goal was to sketch out a single character within the time limit and only color it if I have time. And while designing out these characters, I had Pinterest pulled up on another screen but made sure not to stay on it too long. I already have many boards about fantasy fashion or cool clothing designs, so I just use those instead of spending too much time trying to look at new Pinterest stuff. I will explain more on why it's good to experiment in a minute, but first let me show you all the different characters I created. I didn't record the process for everything since I wasn't planning on making this video, so let's look at all the characters. For the first one, the design was based off a hornet. I ended up giving her a tall, slim body, an angled face, and multiple arms. I tried making her look more angered and mean, just to match what I feel a personality a hornet would have. I also threw on some warm colors because I feel she would live in a more arid or desert region. The next one I created was based off a scab beetle. They seem pretty sturdy and colorful, so I made this guy look more like a warrior with some armor and loose-fitting clothes to make it easier to move around in. I feel like I could have pushed the warrior aesthetic more, but like I said, I wasn't going to think too hard on the design. I ended up coloring his wings in a different color from his body, just to resemble the original bug more. After that, we have the Litchi Lantern Bug, which I've never heard of until now. I ended up creating a child character since the colors of this bug were very bright, and to me childlike. I also had time to color this since the initial design phase didn't take too long. This ended up being the only one I colored, but that's good with me since they don't need to be perfect or anything. And as you can see, these characters aren't what you would traditionally imagine as fairies. Rather, they are more like what I imagine a humanoid version of that bug would look like. But you know, if it has wings like this, it seems like a fairy to me. It's close enough to a fairy, so we're good. I skipped a few days of the prompt list and started back with the Emperor Dragonfly. This ended up being one of my favorite designs of the bunch. Since he had Emperor in the name, I decided to draw more royal or noble-like characteristics with some armor and a crown. I enjoyed looking at all the different reference images I had of armor and tried to contrast it with the more puffy or long parts of the clothing. Next we have the Morpho Butterfly, which feels very elegant and beautiful to me. So I decided to draw a dancer with lots of jewelry and large wings. The design took me longer than I wanted to, but I left the sketchy parts of her dress as is, since I didn't want to take any more time than I needed to. For the last one, I felt like focusing on the face, so I drew a portrait based off the Atlas moth. The details of the clothes and colors are heavily inspired off the moth. I had a bit of extra time when drawing this, so I ended up cleaning up the line art just a bit. I also ended up taking some time during the month to draw myself as a fairy, because I thought it'd be fun. I took an outfit I loved to wear, because it seems more fantasy-like, and altered it a bit to account for the wings. Personally, I love thinking about how fashion would change if a person had like a set of wings or another pair of arms. Like if you had a character with fairy wings, then the way that they would wear a top or get dressed in the morning would change. I feel like I can make a whole video about this, so let's move on to the main point of this video, why it's important to experiment. When you focus solely on projects, it gives you a little time to let new ideas come into play. You might start to repeat concepts or ideas you've had in the past, causing new characters or art to have the same face or overall design. By allowing yourself time to play around and not care what the final creation looks like, you have the opportunity to create things outside your comfort zone. This is also why it's important to have a sketchbook and doodle around in without the worry of it being perfect. Giving yourself time to make messy or quote-unquote bad art is good, because you need to know that not every single thing you make has to be perfect. I haven't spent a lot of time sketching in my sketchbook lately, but when I do just doodle something before working on bigger projects, even if it's just some post studies or random sketches, I feel I produce better art because of it. I guess that means it's good to give yourself time to warm up before actually working, which honestly makes a lot of sense. Kinda like how people who play sports need to stretch and warm up before the game. It's the same with art. Nowadays, I try to take 20 or 30 minutes to sketch before drawing any comic or illustration work for the day. It gives me time to warm up, as well as allow me to brush up on some skills I'll use during work, such as line control. That way, when I start inking or sketching for my comics, I'm more confident in what I create, because I got all the messy drawings out of my system. Or at least most of them. Or, when I need to spend more time drawing characters, I like to do some loose anatomy or gesture studies to remind myself how the body moves when drawing characters in different poses. So if you want to experiment more, how would you go about doing that? For starters, you can do what I did and find an art prompt and go from there. Limiting yourself to a specific concept or time limit can actually help you create more. And don't stress about drawing every day. You can even pick your favorites or just do it once a week. The point is to get your brain thinking about new ideas and get into the habit of sketching and experimenting more often. You can also conduct more art studies. Find artists outside your usual style and break them down. I may not draw a lot of caricatures, but studying how they exaggerate the face can help me find ways to push my art in a new direction. Just looking at how other artists treat lights, use color, composition, any of these things can help give you new ideas to help make your art better. Again, these studies don't have to be long. If you're short on time, just even sketching for 10 minutes can help. If you like to draw people like me, then drawing some dresser poses from photographs or reality will help. Even though my art isn't completely realistic, I find that drawing from photos helps me understand how the bodies move, which makes it easier to create new character poses from imagination. Also, just drawing from real life in general will expand your knowledge of the world around you, and it can inspire your work in many different ways. I know the point of this is all about experimenting and sketching more, but remember that the more you draw in general, the less intimidating it feels to create something new. By giving yourself a little time to draw anything without the worry of it being good, will make it much easier to start new drawings. And the more you draw, the more opportunities you give yourself to improve your craft. Well, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye-bye!